Welcome, my dear subscribers, to Movies Explained Planet. Today we present you a sci-fi, romance, drama film from 2016 titled Passengers. The interstellar spaceship Avalon can be seen traveling through space, headed to a colonized world called Homestead 2. Its quarters are all unfilled, the vessel is moving along automatically. The 258 crew members as well as the 5,000 travelers are in hibernation. Abruptly, the boat goes through a space rock belt that is debilitating its safeguards. Power is redirected to the fundamental safeguard, yet the boat is on a crash course with a Goliath space rock. Abruptly, the space rock slams into the boat, causing different breakdowns. The boat starts self-restitutions, yet one of the hibernation units enacts. The traveler stirred is Jim Preston, a mechanical designer. His unit opens and a mechanized framework assists with his enlivening, letting him know that he's burned through 120 years in suspended liveliness and that the boat is just 4 months from residence. 2. He's told that he will be able to spend that time enjoying the luxurious aspects of the ship. Jim gets directions about his ID band, his lodge, and the essential exercises he's to participate off, preceding the appearance in the world. Energized and apprehensive to meet individuals on the boat, he prepares, leaves his lodge. Furthermore, strolls into a computerized class implied for a whole learning bunch. Jim looks a little restless, as the visualization makes sense of the circumstance on the planet, calling it overpopulated, overrated, and misrepresented. It advises him to hold his inquiries to the furthest limit of the illustration. However, Jim continues to inquire as to why he's the final straggler. He understands that the visualization can't respond to him and goes to look for others. He gets to the principal concourse of the boat. Nobody is there either, yet a computerized enlightening work area offers to help. Jim requests to converse with a genuine individual and it sends him off to converse with a steward. However, when he observes that nobody is there as well, he requests to address the chief. At the point when he gets to the scaffold, despite the fact that he doesn't approach head inside, he can see that none of the fundamental team is alert. By the same token, Jim ultimately goes to the observatory, where he figures out that the boat is really 90 years from Homestead 2. He understands that he awakened too soon, so he surges back to the concourse and communicates something specific back to Earth, asking what he ought to do, on the grounds that he doesn't have the foggiest idea how to get once more into hibernation. The correspondence's framework illuminates him that the overrated call to Earth would take roughly 55 years to find a solution back. Jim is crushed. He strolls around and finds the boat's bar, where he sees someone else. As he's conversing with the barkeep, something appears to be bizarre about him. At the point when he goes to get him a beverage, Jim understands that he's an android. It's called Arthur. Jim needs to figure out additional data from him, yet he couldn't actually make sense of for the android how it's feasible for him to be there quite a bit early. Jim awakens in his lodge the following day and goes to the saloon, where he rapidly understands that the majority of the things on the menu are held for gold-class travelers, as it were. He gets his plain espresso and attempts to sort out some way to fix his hibernation chamber. After he gets every one of the instruments, he figures out how to make it work and rests within the case. In any case, nothing occurs. Then, he chooses to utilize the devices he found to get into the group's hibernation chambers. That doesn't work. By the same token, little breakdowns occur around the boat. Jim continues to get back to the bar to drink, however, for the most part to converse with Arthur. The android offers him some guidance that persuades him to slow down into one of the gold homerooms. What's more, attempt to have a good time on the boat. Jim attempts every one of the cafes, the games, the theater setup. Be that as it may, over the long haul he turns out to be considerably more hopeless to be there alone. At some point, he becomes inebriated and meanders around the hibernation cases when he coincidentally finds a sealed area with spacesuits intended for spacewalks. Jim gets into a suit and goes to the isolated space, presses a switch and afterward the button to deliver the sealed area entryway. When outside the boat, he's entranced by the view. He's the main cognizant person encountering that second in time. Jim discharges the magnets on his boots and floats in space, feeling crushed. He returns inside, removes the suit, however returns to the airtight chamber without it on. He pulls the switch, prepared to end everything, except adjusts his perspective in the latest possible second, runs back inside and slips on a jug. Jim stands up and is in a flash attracted to a lady in one of the cases, named Aurora. He looks for her records in the catalog and stands by listening to her traveler interview, becoming enchanted with her. Later he's seen sitting close to her unit, actually paying attention to her meetings. Back in the bar, he's perusing a portion of her work and is conversing with Arthur about her composition. He becomes fixated on the incongruity of his circumstance, going to one more planet for a superior life, getting up right on time and not arriving, and tracking down his ideal lady, just for her to be far off. Jim continues pondering her and starts getting the plan to awaken her as well. He talks it over with the android, however he doesn't figure out the problem. On the off chance that he awakens her for his own advantage, he'd abandon her there with him, to pass on the boat. Jim rolls against it first, yet as time passes by he can't let it go. Until one day, he adjusts his perspective. He goes to her case and figures out how to enact it. As she's awakening and going through a similar interaction as he did, he stows away and returns to his room. Somewhat later he goes to the fundamental concourse, wanting to view as her. They run together, eat together, rest together. Jim investigates the boat further and finds the aquafarming narrows. He brings Aurora blossoms. One day the boat passes by a red monster and they go to the observatory to see it. It's Aurora's birthday, later to the point that evening they celebrate it in one of the numerous cafes on the boat and afterward the bar. Jim goes to the washroom and readies the ring he made for Aurora while she remains in the bar talking with Arthur. The android lets Aurora know that Jim awakened her deliberately, uninformed that he was still to stay quiet about that. Unexpectedly, Jim returns and she faces him in outright doubt. She takes off incensed and overreacted. Jim returns to his lodge to find every one of her things gone. He runs into her in the bar the following day, yet the second he talks, she takes off. Aurora is frantic. One night she heads toward Jim's lodge, punching and kicking him, needing to kill him. Conversing with her over the common light of the fact that she continues to stay away from him, Jim attempts to apologize and make sense of his activities to her. He tells her he fell head over heels for her, yet Aurora couldn't care less. She can't pardon him for ending her life. One evening, as Jim is in his lodge, another glitch occurs. The boat faces a basic mistake and the primary order closes down. Afterward, he strolls into the lift and it glitches. Aurora strolls into the principal concourse and sees that Jim has established a tree there. Then, she goes to the bar, where the food dispensary is likewise breaking down. Abruptly, the two of them hear the voice of the deck boss over the comms, asking who planted the tree. The two of them run into the concourse and see Gus Mancuso remaining before Jim's tree. They present themselves and inform the head concerning what is happening. He doesn't see how 3 cases could come up short. Mancuso takes them to the scaffold and he finds that something isn't quite right about the boat. In any case, the data on the frameworks must be checked physically. At the point when they leave the scaffold, a robot nearly falls on their heads, and both of them tell Mancuso that glitches have been going on all around the boat, all the more much of the time. He says that shouldn't occur, as he tells them the best way to gather the information. Mancuso keeps an eye on the cases when Jim goes along with him there. He's perishing, and there are no medicines that can stop it or delay the time he has left. Sometime later, them three meet in the observatory, and Mancuso gives Jim his ID armband, advises them to fix the boat, and quickly perishes. Unexpectedly, the lights change to a disturbing red and the boat begins shaking. Jim lets Aurora know that he wants her assistance, and they run toward designing, yet all the same there's another disappointment in the gravity drive. What's more, immediately another that torments Arthur also. Jim deactivates him. They at long last show up in designing and begin searching for the issue. They find it in the power plant, and as they open the portal, Aurora gets sucked in. The space rock has caused a break in the structure around there. Jim gets sucked in as well, yet he clutches the lid as it continues to close on him. In the end he gets sucked in as well, yet they rapidly figure out how to seal the break. Immediately subsequent to fixing that issue, Jim understands that there is more than one break in the body. Both of them follow the direction of the meteor and find that it has raised a ruckus around town. Control PC. He lets Aurora know what occurred, and she moves as quick as possible to get to another suit. Furthermore, get him. He is sorry to her once more. She gets into a suit and flies out to get him, however, her tie is excessively short. She's pulled back, yet out of nowhere takes hold of his tie and figures out how to pull him in. Aurora hauls Jim into the hospital, just to figure out that he's now dead. She utilizes Mancuso's wristband to supersede the clinical conventions and to revive him. The clinical case accomplishes the work consequently and restores Jim. Aurora excuses him. Afterward, Aurora fixes Arthur and they give Mancuso a legitimate space entombment. Jim takes her to the hospital and advises her that he's figured out how to utilize the clinical case as a hibernation one. He advises her to get inside the case and brave the remainder of the excursion in there. Yet, as is subsequently uncovered, she declines and chooses to remain with him, conscious on the boat. Jim at last proposes to her, and they carry on without their lives on the boat. After 88 years, the Avalon shows up on Residence 2. The group awakens and tracks down the boat in an exceptionally surprising state. Aurora leaves them a message, retelling the narrative of the existence her and Jim had on the boat, while the rest were dozing.